Good afternoon, Chris. Let's have a look at this week's top 10 most ports, ending yesterday as of May 2nd, 2021. As you can see in the table here, there are usual numbers, usual suspects in the top 10, starting with the 443, which is HTTPS, followed by AT-TCP. It's kind of jumped 11 places from last week to coming into the second position. And I would like to show a couple more slides based on that AT-TCP. At the number 3 position is Telnet port 23. At 5 is 6379, followed by 22 SSH 1433, which is Microsoft SQL Server port. At the number 8 position is 53 UDP for DNS. And 9 is 3389 TCP, which is for remote desktop protocol. And basically ending up with the top 10 position is 123 UDP, which is for network transport protocol. So this next slide is basically next to top 10 most ports. Here also there's some variations a little bit. I thought of looking at 8088 TCP, 8443 TCP, but it seems to be very incremental change, basically based on the algorithm. There was very little changes, nothing much to show. Basically, that's why I'm not showing anything from this chart here. But moving on along, this is our common backbone view up on the port AT-TCP in the past 30 days. This is looking at how is the scanning activity occurring on this specific port. On the x-axis, we have the timeline, and on the y-axis, basically how many counts we are seeing, in this case, millions. So as you can see, since only maybe last 2-3 days, there's a little bit increase in scanning or probing of activity occurring on this port AT-TCP. Okay, by looking at it, then I kind of looked into one of our reports and see how the sources are distributed. As you can see, there were about a little over 10,000 scanners were found for that specific report. And you can see they're very widely distributed all across the globe, in the sense, with the exception of maybe in African region, not as much predominantly prominent as compared to South America, North America, Asia Pac regions. But nevertheless, you can see they're heavily concentrated in multiple areas on the world map, right? So I guess you may ask, there are a couple of points on the version, but I think it's how the latitude and longitude is calculated. Most likely they're anomaly rather than there's something is residing there. Okay. That being said, this is the view from our sinkhole data. By looking at the data here, there are some observations I made, in the sense the traffic most likely seems to be IoT devices, specifically by some sort of botnets. Maybe, and by looking at it, there are references to some GPON-based and as well as Netgear-based devices. And we all know these devices are heavily targeted by many of the IoT-based botnets like Mirai and its variants. So this chart here is basically showing how the distribution has been observed from the data. In that case, as you can see, about 86% is HTTP traffic, but the rest seems to be broken into malformed HTTP. There's some ghost thread traffic, and there is also some sort of RDP as well as SOX-related stuff, right? So there's some interesting tidbits captured from here, basically, which I highlighted in yellow here. In one of the configurations, what's happening is there is a HTTP GET request to some sort of Netgear-based file, and as you can see here, there's some sort of command execution is happening. I think once the file has been downloaded to some temporary locations, there is some wget request happening to some sort of C2 IP. And basically in this scenario, what it is getting is it's getting a specific version of a Mozy botnet to the architecture. That's another one. Another one is a GPON farm. It's also, again, related to one IoT-based network. So even though from the common backbone reports, it's felt like most of the devices are scanning for specific things, the data from a single kind of supports that idea basically is related to some sort of botnet. So there might be something new, or maybe some changes happen in the past 2 or 3 days. Maybe because of that, there's suddenly increase in activity happening on this port. We're kind of observing at this time to understand is there anything new capability or maybe new pivot is occurring with any of the botnets we track. As we learn, we try to provide additional details as we learn. I pause here to hear any comments from you, any suggestions.
Yeah, Ganesh, are there any known patches out there to probably alleviate that wget command we've seen on some of those Netgear devices?
Yes, yeah. Most oftentimes they have patches. For example, Netgear is a well-known vendor. They always have patches, but there are so many devices. Before saying that, I would say this statement first. Since most of these are like IoT kind of, like routers kind of devices, some might be residing at regular users' homes. It's not easy for them to get patched. Like an average user has maybe technical difficulties to get the patches downloaded, right? I think these botnets basically pry on that reason to basically get them into the botnet and do whatever the nefarious they're doing up to. Most oftentimes they do have patches. It's how many devices, how much percentage they have been patched. That's the big question here.
Yeah, I can see how that can be a challenge with forcing users to update their patches and update their devices, and some of them may not have the technical knowledge to do so.
Yeah, for instance, with respect to GPON, when we were looking at the GPON-based routers or IoT devices are very popular in Asia-Pac region. Maybe that's one of the reasons when you see this GeoIP map, you see the highly concentrated there. So, sometimes that gives you a little correlation where these devices are highly concentrated by looking at, what kind of devices they have. And then moving on to the top 10 most sources probing this week. Again, there's not much movement here since the last few weeks. I would like to concentrate on number 7 and number 8, which are 8291 TCP and 8728 TCP. These two are basically known with MikroTik devices, which is another IoT device and heavily used in Asia-Pac region. And in case of MikroTik routers and devices, there's a little bit challenge overall for patching them because they're most likely used by average users. Let's see how the traffic looks from our common backbone perspective. As you can see, it's the past 90 days worth of graph showing how the activities is occurring between 8291 and 8728 TCP. It is basically used for MikroTik Winbox, and one is used for Microsoft API access. As you can see, in this scenario, this graph is a stacked graph in the sense whatever the volume you're seeing on top of the another one. As you can see, like between the color differences between blue and red, you always see almost these two ports are going hand in hand all the time. So the reason being there used to be multiple vulnerabilities which daisy chain various ports related to MikroTik to get the remote code execution, maybe sometimes elevated privileges. There are other ports, but most oftentimes we always see 8291 often working together with 872.8 TCP. And this graph kind of actually solidifies that fact that they're working together in tandem. So what we know about 872.8, these are all, well-known information. There's so many exploits with respect to MikroTik, with respect to 8291 TCP. And this is one link where they talk about various exploits related to MikroTik routers, leveraging the MikroTik API port as well as Winbox and other ports. This is one of the CVE rules. Snort rule, which detects one of the CVEs associated with 8291 TCP. Even though there is not increased activity, but I would like to drive the point. Still, this activity is going on, also going in tandem.
How long has that snort rule been out? Because I feel like we've seen the MikroTik port's been probed for a while now.
As you can see, this has been assigned in 2018. So I assume at least sometime in 2018 this rule has been put in place. This is one of the rules specific to 8291. There are other rules you can leverage to basically find these MikroTik routers.